So is the Yamaha R7 a good beginner bike? So today's video I want to go over if the R7 is good for a new rider. So for somebody who has zero experience in motorcycles and want to start out, are they able to start on one of these bikes? Is this too fast? Is this too slow? So I'm going to get into that today. So the R7 is of course a sport bike, so it's going to be a little bit more aggressive seating position. And this seat height, which I'll first talk about, is 32.9 inches. So for me, I have a 30-inch inseam and I'm 5'10", and on this bike I can't fully flat foot, but I'd say I can get the balls of my feet down on both sides. So I'm not fully tippy-toeing, but I'm not fully flat footing either. And there's pretty much no bend in my knee. I'm like standing up as straight as possible. But let me turn this thing on, go out for a ride, and talk more about it. That exhaust system sounds so good. It is so hot outside today. I think it's like almost 80 degrees and there's pretty much no breeze, so I'm sweating so much right now in these leathers. So I don't know if you guys can tell right now, but I am a little bit leaned over because I mean it still is a sport bike, and this R7 isn't as aggressive as the 600s or 636s, but it still is a fairly aggressive seating position. But I'd say if you're looking at a sport bike, you should already know that. But first, let me talk about kind of the specs on this bike. So it does have the CP2 engine, which has about 72 horsepower and about 50 pounds of torque. So it's definitely a good torque number, which I'm going to get into furthermore later on, because I think that affects the decision of whether this bike's for a beginner or not. It's the torque. So this bike definitely isn't a slouch, but if you're going in a straight line, it's not going to be as fast as those 600s, of course. I'd say this bike isn't really a big, long stretch highway type of motorcycle. You're more going to see this thing shine in the back roads and some twisties. That's where this bike's really made for. But let me get back into whether you can start on one of these bikes or not. So assuming you're a new motorcycle rider and researching into getting a bike, probably the most common thing that you hear is when you ask what bike should I start on, people are going to say the Yamaha R3 or the Ninja 400. And here's my opinion on it. Let me not get hit by this car. Please see me. You're also going to hear people say, oh, you can start on a 600. You're going to hear people say you can start on a liter bike. You're going to hear people say do whatever you want, respect the throttle. But I don't believe in the same thing. I don't think you should throw a person with no experience on a 1000cc bike. I think that's not smart at all. Same reason a kid's first car shouldn't be a $500,000 Ferrari. It just doesn't make sense. You guys need to learn the basics before you start moving up in those levels. So back to the question, is this too much for a beginner? I'd say yes, it is. Let me explain why. Bikes are not the same as cars in no way whatsoever. On a bike, you need to have 100% focus at all times. There's no texting and driving. There's no eating while you drive. There's no gazing at the views. You have to be 100% focused, and you have to put your entire body into it. You have one foot to shift, you have another foot for the rear brake, you have a hand for the front brake, another hand for the clutch. Like, you have to be paying fully attention. And when you ride a bike, you have to use your entire body to shift your weight around and hug the tank with your legs at the same time. So there's a lot of different things to it. As adds on to my point is, why would you want to start on a bike that has a lot of power and has even less room for error and is way less forgiving when you don't have to? For example, an R7, it does have a bit of torque. Regardless of what anybody says, this motor is really torquey. It's why people love it for wheelies. So this throttle is going to be way more unforgiving, as you see, than let's say 300 or 400cc bike. And a common thing that beginner riders do is they give too much throttle, they let out the clutch too quickly. So it's going to make it so much easier for you guys to just launch the bike out from under you when you're not trying to, by having too much power. And also the seat height is a little tall, and the reason why you don't want that as a brand new rider is because you're going to feel a little bit less comfortable and less confident if your feet can't touch the floor fully, like, and you can't really walk around with the bike when you're moving it through a parking lot at a low speed or reversing it. So it's why those R3s, so it's why those 300, 400cc bikes are so friendly, because they also have an extremely low seat height as well. And if you're like, oh, well, the 300s are too slow, I don't want one of those, I need a faster bike, I can handle more, I want to let you guys know that even those 400cc bikes are really quick. Those things can still get low 4-second 0 to 60s, because bikes are way quicker than you think. And like I said, as a beginner rider, you don't need all that power. Your guys are fine. And there's so much more to motorcycle riding than just going in a straight line. Basically anybody can go in a straight line, but that's not what all motorcycle riding is about. You have to practice on your braking, because it's way different than a car. You have to practice on your turns, you have to practice on leaning the bike, you have to practice on a lot of low speed stuff. Straight line speed is literally just one aspect of motorcycle riding. And when you're a beginner rider, that's the last thing that you need to worry about, is your straight line speed. You guys need to be comfortable on the bike. You guys need to practice with the clutch, practice with the friction zone, practice with emergency braking, practice with all these different situations, practice in the parking lot, doing cone drills, going in and out of them. So it's why you need to be less concerned about what top speed you can hit, when there's so many other things to worry about. And another point is why I wouldn't say to start on this bike is because bike MSRP is $9,200. So let's say you get it brand new, you're gonna be out the dealer over 10 grand easy. And even if you get it used, you're still gonna be up in that price range, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. And the reason why you should worry about that is because it's your first bike. So you're going to go through all the accidents of dropping it by mistake, tipping it over, not putting the kickstand down fully. Losing your balance and just the bike falling on the ground. And would you rather you go through those learning curves like everybody does on a bike that's $4,000 or $5,000, or a bike that's double the price? And I'll be honest, even like the first week I had this bike, after coming from my beginner bike, I still dropped this thing in the garage because I just lost my balance putting the kickstand down by accident. And it's not like you're a horrible rider for doing that. It's so common to happen. Even with people who have been riding for years. It's just one of those things. Same thing with dropping your bike. It's gonna happen if you ride motorcycles. It's just when. I'll tell you guys, me personally, I started on a Honda Grom before I moved up to this bike. And that is a 125cc motorcycle. That thing had 12 horsepower. It was not fast by any means. That thing topped out at 65 miles an hour on a good day. But I wasn't really concerned about my first bike, because it's your first bike for a reason. It's not supposed to be the fastest thing in the world. It's just supposed to teach you what you need to know when you're moving up in the future. And the only exception, I'd say, if you can start on one of these, whether it's the R7 or the Ninja 650, because they're both around 70 horsepower is if you've had previous motorcycle experience, such as riding dirt bikes when you were younger. But other than that, if you're a brand new rider with no experience, I'd say don't hop on one of these. Say if you want a sport bike, go start yourself out with an R3 or an Inter 400. If you want a naked bike, get an MT-03 or a Z400 and you'll be totally fine. Don't worry about the power, just focus on learning the basics, and then once you know everything, then go move up, then go sell the bike, because there are people looking for beginner bikes every single day, and get a bike that you'll be happy with. Because motorcycle riding is supposed to be fun. You're going to be in this for a while if you enjoy them, so there's no need to rush, get a bike too fast for yourself, get yourself seriously hurt, and you're never going to ride motorcycles again. Just take it slow, enjoy the process of learning, enjoy the process of working up the power levels, and you guys will have a great time. These are extremely fun, but they're extremely dangerous, so you guys have to be careful.